anyone who says they can completely become a character, I'm sorry, that is when my bullshit radar hits a very high level. I will always be Lesley. You've got to have that separation, and why wouldn't you? It's healthy anyway. You know, I've played Mary Tyrone in Long Day's Journey and Tonight. I've played Helene Alving in Ghosts. I've played some pretty difficult characters, not least of all Joan in Ordinary Love. But I sure as hell do not want to take them home with me. I want to have a life. I want to go and be me.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Lesley Manville is an actor. She sat down with me in New York City to talk about the work.
The way I always start these with actors is to talk about preparation process. But with you, I feel like I want to get into Mike Leigh eventually, but I feel like we need to talk about him in the beginning here, only because I imagine because he was such a formative influence in your early development. Even though, of course, people don't work like Mike Leigh normally, but I imagine that when you approach a script, you kind of do it in a reverse way from Mike Leigh, meaning, you know, Mike Leigh, there's no script. You are presented with a script in a normal movie. Tell me if this is true. You then kind of reverse the process to get into this character.
I might do, but you know, listen, I've worked with many great directors. Mike Leigh's one of them. He's certainly the one who was very formative for me, because I met him when I was so young and not formed as an actor, and didn't even really know what sort of actor I wanted to be, and certainly didn't know what kind of an actor I could be. I didn't know I had the ability to be so chameleon. So he certainly got all of those juices going in me. But, you know, he works in a very specific way, which serves the way he makes his films and plays, which is that rather than starting on day one with a script and going from there, he spends many months getting to the point where you have a script, but he does that not at home on his own at his desk writing. He does it in collaboration with a whole bunch of actors with whom he will, in the early days, spend time creating this character, developing it, researching any jobs they might do, bringing them together with another actor who might be their sister or brother or wife or husband or girlfriend or work colleague, whatever. And out of that, you know, and we're talking weeks and months, not days, you might then start doing improvisations when there's no pressure to be interesting. In fact, the reverse. These improvisations might last for many hours. And then further down the line, he will go away and create a sort of one-line scenario for where the film or play goes in each scene or section. And then he will share that with you individually and only tell you the bits that are relevant to you and your character. And then you will go into a much more intense period of improvisation where you pin down the dialogue of these scenes and actually what really is going to happen. And all the while the actors are coming up with the words and the dialogue, and he's the dramatist in him is pulling them together. Yeah, say that there, but don't say, and then bring that, and say that before and talk about that then, and he's jiggling it around, and he's, you know, we're creating what is a script, although we never, the actors never have it written down. But what we then have at the end of this 5 or 6 month period of development and rehearsals is a script that we then go away and shoot in the same way that I shoot a script with anybody else. So his process is a means to an end. When I'm working on a script that's already complete, I can do as much or as little work as I feel I need to do to make this person come to life. And the older I get, I leave a lot more of it to my instincts, and also I've had a lot more of life. There's an awful lot more I can call upon that's just in me, because I've experienced life, as everyone has, in all its ups and downs and grief and joy and all of those things. But you can certainly go deep and use Mike's methods and fill in the gaps of a script that you have and do all the backstory. You can do all of that. And I do as much or as little as that as I feel I want to and need to.
And what is it that makes you decide this is not necessary to go deep here? We're using the words I don't like, but meaning you're not going to go. What makes you decide to use your instinct, to rely on your instincts more? Well,
sometimes it's to do with like Liam and I on this film, Ordinary Love. We worked a bit before it. We talked about things that we thought were pertinent, particularly around this daughter that they've had that's died, who doesn't get a lot of airtime in the film, but it's there. It's informed what they are as people. So it's important for that reason. But, we both knew that we're dealing with two people who are a middle class. They've got this great sense of humour together. They've got this very loving relationship. Their world has kind of cocooned down to quite a small existence that's not dependent on a lot of other people. Mm-hmm. They're very dependent on each other. They get on with the small stuff. But you see, in this film, what happens to them is happening to them in the immediate. You've got Joan and Tom, so we had to get Joan and Tom together, and then, Joan discovers she's got breast cancer. So Joan's dealing with that as a fresh thing. So I've had experience of family members with breast cancer who came through it, and friends as well. So I knew something about the procedure, but I didn't really know. Then when we started shooting the scenes in the hospital, we had real biopsy nurses, real chemo nurses. All of those technicians were real people who did that job. That was fantastically helpful. But in that case, I wanted to experience all those things, register what it was like for the first time to go through that, or kind of imagine going through it. And then obviously you've got to recreate that and act it, take after take after take. But these days I leave quite a lot more to my experience as an actor. Because a lot of it, Mike Leigh said this to me a long time ago. I remember we were on a press tour with Another Year, I think it was, and people were saying, how did you this, and that character Mary, she's so lonely, this lonely drunk, and how do you this and how do you, people want you to analyse it to within an inch of its life, and sometimes you just have to say, and he said this, he said, it's just good acting. And it's, and I hold on to that, because we are doing all that work that we do when we're with Mike because we have to, because we haven't got a script. That's our means to an end, the end being the script. So when I've got a script and it's really beautifully written, and I can instinctively see what the gaps are. We know what Joan and Tom were like. Liam and I needed to discuss a few things that we just so we're both on the same page. Yeah. But we don't need to go, well, what did they do in May in 1972? And you don't need to do all of that. Yeah. At the end of the day, a lot of it came down to being incredibly experienced actors, the pair of us, having both had very, very full lives, and then you act well.
And that little example of what Mike said there about it's just good acting, also kind of, when you broaden that out to his approach, an approach that I'm assuming that you tell me if I'm wrong, that you prefer to work in, which is that you don't lose yourself in the character. You play the character and then you leave it at the end. It's like
but you can't become that character, because one of the crucial things about working with Mike is that, yes, I've done improvisations with him that have gone on for 5-6 hours. master improvisations that, like for example, the barbecue scene in Another Year. It was all set up and we did a real barbecue in real time. And out of that, of course, he distills the best bits, and because you don't want a 5-hour barbecue scene in a film.
Yeah.
You then, one-to-one, not as a group, one-to-one, go and debrief that improvisation. And you're talking about your character always in the third person. She this, she felt that. It's not you.
Yeah.
She felt this. But in order to be objective about your character, Lesley's got to have her antennae monitoring it. So yes, you're in character, but also there's Lesley, who is obviously, but anyone who says they can completely become a character, I'm sorry, that is when my bullshit radar hits a very high level. You can do a great job of it, but you can only ever, I will always be Lesley. And with Mike, you have to have that, because you have to have this debrief, and you have to say, he might say, well, what did she think when he said that? And you're answering it as Lesley.
Yeah.
So you've got to have that separation. And why wouldn't you? It's healthy anyway. You know,
Right.
I've played Mary Tyrone in Long Day's Journey and Tonight. I've played Helene Alving in Ghosts. I've played some pretty difficult characters, not least of all Joan in Ordinary Love. But I sure as hell do not want to take them home with me. I want to have a life. I want to go and
Yes.
be me.
Yes. But if we look at characters like Mary in Another Year, who is very different than you, I'm assuming, I don't know you. Completely, okay. And recent roles, like in Harlots,
Yeah.
totally different. Even Mom,
Yeah.
okay? When you get to a role, though, like this in Ordinary Love, which I'm assuming you're not, like in Harlots, you can put on the costume.
Of course,
and you're halfway
I
there.
know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
It's like it's closer to me.
Yes.
It is. Of course, it is.
And is that harder?
No, it's
In
not
a way,
really.
because of the way you work. A normal actor would be like, it's not harder because the way they work is they don't work in necessarily the way you do.
But some things require a big shift. You know, Harlots, not just because of the period and the costumes. You know, that woman is. There's a theatricality about that program.
Yeah.
So in a way, it was almost like doing her on stage, because she could be big, she could be grand, and that was that was her style, and that was the style of the piece. You know, I can latch on to what the nature of something is. Kathy and Mum, you know, again, it's a completely different. It's very quiet. It's about listening and not. Just listening and feeling what the people are saying to me and processing that, and being, as it were, with that character, is thinking what we hopefully want the audience to be thinking. When somebody's being
You're our
ridiculous,
surrogate, yeah.
I'm the surrogate for the audience. So, you know, you have to take all that into consideration. This, with Ordinary Love, you know, it required Liam and I to seemingly effortlessly, create a couple who've been lovingly together with great humour in their relationship and warmth and friendship, to create this couple who've been together for 30 plus years, who then have to navigate this rather unpleasant diagnosis that Joan has. And the film observes what that does to their love and their relationship. The film, yes, it does deal with breast cancer, but over and above all of that, it is a love story. It's a story about a middle-aged couple who still find each other attractive, who still make each other laugh. It's a really good couple. That's not often told. It's usually that, you know, that's often told with, they don't like each other, they've been together, they're going to divorce, there's bitterness. This couple is not like that. And so I think that because very quickly in the film you find out that she has cancer, but in those early stages of going through the procedure of it all, before they actually really find out that, yes, you've got it, you're going to have a lumpectomy, you're going to have chemo, and ultimately you're going to have a double mastectomy. It's through that journey, you're seeing some of the nice bits of their lives, the ordinary bits of their lives, the walking that they do, funny little conversations about a Fitbit. Well, how does a Fitbit know? And what tomatoes are we getting? Why are we buying tomato? Why don't you just buy tomato juice? Well, why don't we buy a juicer? Arguing about all that, the stuff of life. Mm-hmm. It's ordinary.
Yes.
If you're going to have to do all those things in life, which we all have to do, you might as well do them with joy. And Joan and Tom are that couple. But there's a fantastic honesty about their love, and in a very powerful scene, which could be reduced to being very simplistic. People, the scene when they go and have sex because she's going to have her operation the next day. Yeah, that they go to a hotel. Isn't that sweet? This couple still want to do that thing that you might think 20-year-olds do. They go to a hotel. They go to a hotel, they have a dinner. She's got her hair's all off, she wears a nice dress. They're looking nice for each other. But it's about them having what they suspect will be, a passionate night. But it's about saying goodbye to her breasts because she's going to have them removed the next day. Mm-hmm. Now that scene, for me, manages to be both sexual and with a degree of eroticism, but still very wholesome and lovely.
Yes.
And Liam suggested a great thing for that scene. He said, because she's lost her hair and she's wearing the turban, she's got her makeup on and she looks nice, and she's got a nice dress and she looks nice, but she's got the turban on because she's not got any hair. He said, I think Tom would want to take that turban off by way of saying,
acceptance.
I love you.
Yeah.
In all of this.
Yeah.
In your cancer-riddled glory, I love you still. Yeah. And it's a beautiful scene, really beautiful.
Let's say a director is listening to this. A director who's about to work with you. She or he typed your name into the podcast search because they just want to hear you talk about acting before they even meet you.
Yeah.
Talk to that director for a second because they're worried. They're worried because they're intimidated by you. They're also worried because not only of your experience, but your process.
No, but you see, I don't have a process.
Well, this is what I was going. I had a feeling
I
you were going to say that.
I don't have a process, and I don't. If a director would think she's going to want to work because, like, in a certain way because she's worked with Mike Leigh, I mean that I wouldn't dream of suggesting another director use someone else's methods because what am I trying to make any artist? All artists have to conform to a certain other artist's view and way of making films. That would be ridiculous.
But I think what I mean is, at a certain point, some great actors, and I would think you're one of them, you're one of our great actors, that I can imagine somebody thinking, she is director-proof at this point.
No, I don't want to be. I want it to be a collab. I don't want to do it by myself. And the problem with, sometimes happens with television, sometimes there is, as you know, some great writing and great directing going on in television at the moment. Isn't it glorious?
Yes.
But sometimes you can be stuck with somebody who's not quite so good. And I can then sort it out by myself. I can, because I've got decades of experience. I can absolutely do that. I can turn up and I can turn in something pretty good. But that gives me absolutely no pleasure because I want to collaborate. I want help. I need a third eye. And also, I'm really nice to work with, as is Liam. We're both good, grounded, honest people who don't come to set because we want to be big and grand and show off. We come to set to do a good job and because we want to work on the piece that we've agreed to do. And I want to collaborate with costume and makeup and hair and designers. That's the joy of it. That's the buzz of it all. I don't want to sort it out for myself.
So input is not only okay with you, it's welcomed. You know.
Yeah,
and
it's needed. A director isn't just employed to work out where they want to point the camera.
Yeah.
Too many television directors don't know how to work with actors.
Yes.
They just don't know.
Yes.
They sort of maybe haven't worked in the theatre where you get much more chance to have that collaboration with the actor-director collaboration, and they just don't have a kind of vision about it.
A lot of actors recently on this podcast, they've been talking about this idea that they are sad to leave a character at the end of the shoot because they were giving it life and it's over now, and it's almost like they're not going to live anymore. And I found that more than one person has said this, and I found this so fascinating. But I imagine with you, with the way you, especially with Mike Leigh, and I'm thinking of Mary, like in another year, like that's such a force, an energy that's alive because of you. Do you relate to that idea of now you're leaving this person almost like a death?
No, because I've played them. I've not felt that. And anyway, they will live on in the film.
Yes.
As a piece of a whole piece of
Yes.
Creation of art in that sense of the word. No, I don't. I've done them. If I've done them properly and I feel that I've served them properly and done it well and mined every emotion that they were going through in the fullest way. No, I don't. I kind of don't hold with all of that. They're a person and it's like them sitting next to me. And no, they're not. It's you acting, and you either act them very well or you don't. It's much more, I'm far too pragmatic.
Yeah.
And that is not to say, and I've said this before, I have, as you know, worked with Mike Leigh a lot. I can be in character.
Yeah.
In the depths of that character,
right.
But then I have to have my antennae on the go, monitoring it. I have to talk about them and debrief it, and I want to leave that person and go home and be Lesley.
Yeah.
And it's quite simple for me. And Mike Leigh is very similar. We're both Pisceans. We're both very ordered and pragmatic about it, and that's what it is. I do not become Mary in another year and carry her around with me and miss her. No, I don't. I've done her. I hopefully have touched people by tapping into her loneliness and displaying that in the same way that I do with Ordinary Love.
Yeah.
But any kind of hippy-dippy talk about them being in the room and next to me and where have they gone now that I'm not playing them? No. I hold no truck with all of that.
Well, so you seem healthy.
I am.
This is amazing.
I mean, listen, I've played some horrendous women. I've played some very sad women. I've played I've played women on the edge a lot. And I know that I do that well.
Yeah. Yes.
But that's not me.
Is there anything that you're dying to do?
I don't make a list. I mean, people say, do you want to do Cleopatra? Would you like to do the... I really don't make a list because, you know, somebody could be writing a great new play now that I know nothing about. I mean, I'm performing in Tony Kushner's The Visit at the moment in London. And I couldn't have ever, I hadn't read that play, so I didn't know. And then there it is, this great character who I'm now playing at the National Theatre. So no, not really. I mean, I have an amazing career in England. I have an amazing career. I get offered the best theatre that's available, that's right for me, that's for a woman of my age. And now, because of the success of Phantom Thread and all the repercussions of that, and, you know, let's put it out there, an Oscar nomination makes a difference. Yes. I now have a kind of other area of work opening up to me, which I'd never have expected. I probably wouldn't have been asked to do Ordinary Love. I don't know, though. I might have done, because it's an Irish film, and so it's close to home. But, you know, I was a bit more, dirty word, I know, but bankable, I guess. Yes. Although you don't need to be bankable if you're working opposite Liam Neeson, because he's all the bank that you need. But, you know, I am doing stuff over here now, and yes. A lot more stuff is opening up to me. But my criteria will remain the same. Yes. I'm not going to suddenly go mad and start making a load of not very good movies because they're going to pay me a lot of money. Thank you. My judgment on whether I want to do a thing or not will stay the same. I will carry on being the person and the actor that I am, because otherwise I'm lost. I can only do that.
Thank God. Can I say that? Lesley Manville, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of IFP, the Independent Filmmaker Project. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.